reproduction process, okay? And in that reproduction process, the whole male and female reproductive system was done. And we are also done with the reproductive health, okay? Now, in yesterday's topic, there were certain terminologies being used. I told you that obviously such type of things are definitely coming from the NCERT only. But you should always be going through the chapter again and again, because the terminologies which are there, maybe we'll be having some precise, you can say, definitions, okay? And those definitions will require always a proper biological terms, okay? I'm shared my screen with you. So just to revise what we did yesterday, okay, we talked about different type of, a very important thing, we talked about the RCH students, okay? Now, what is that RCH? RCH was a reproductive child health care, okay? And what is this reproductive child health care, RCH, when we talk about? So, we are catering to two things at the same time, okay? Number one thing, we are taking care of the health of the individuals which are there in the reproductive age, especially the females we talk about. At the same time, we are also taking care of the individuals, maybe the next generation we also talk about, okay? So how the healthy baby will have a good impact on the society, that's all also need to be done, okay? Very important among all these things was there were certain, you all remember, we talked about certain birth control measures we talked about, right? So what are these birth control measures? These birth control measures are meant to obviously to cater two things. Number one, you are actually somewhere or the other, you are controlling the population in the society so that every individual is given equal amount of a good amount of you can say the health benefits, the nutrition and everything. At the same time, one more very important thing we are catering to is women's health in the society. So if a woman is giving birth to 7 to 8 children, obviously maybe in a 10 years of span or 20 years of span, her health will be totally deteriorated, okay? In order to cater these two things, a healthy society and obviously a female's health is also very important, the birth control measures are to be discussed. Yesterday, we discussed few of the birth control measures, and these few of the birth control measures, I'm sharing my white screen with you. Yes, okay. So these birth control measures, like if we talk about some other measures which are, we say that they are the, hope my screen is shared. Not yet. It's taking time. Okay, I'll discuss till the time it's getting shared. Okay. So when we talk about the birth control measures, we discussed this in the last class also, that these control measures are either the temporary ones we talk about, or they are the ones which are the permanent ones. Okay. So what are the permanent ones? Obviously, we talk about the surgery. These are the minor surgeries being done. But the permanent ones means what? That the if once the individuals are, if the couple is absolutely sure that the family is complete, okay, after that they can go for the surgery. And in the surgery, there is a small kind of a blockage done, both in the fallopian tube region in the case of the females and the vas deferens in the case of the male. And what are they doing over here is that they are controlling the movement of the gametes. Okay, so if the movement of the gamete is not there, then obviously the fertilization will not happen. But such type of measures are the permanent measures, right? These are not the temporary measures. These are the permanent measures. These are. So make sure, couple has to make sure that really they don't want to increase this their family size. Then only they should be going for this method. Is my screen shared? Anyone, please? I think it's not yet shared. Is my screen shared now? Is my screen shared? Yes, now it is shared. Fine. Okay. So whiteboard is not getting shared. It's okay. Fine. We'll discuss over here. So what are we discussing is that we talk about either the permanent methods and the temporary method. Now, what are these temporary methods? The temporary methods are the method which a couple will be requiring it for a temporary period of time. Okay. They want a gap between the two children, then they will go for such type of you can say the methods they'll go for. So you have the barrier methods are there. The IUDs are there. IUDs are the intrauterine devices we talk about, right? The different types of IUDs are there we talked about yesterday. that these IUDs may be having substances like copper material is there, and that copper material changes the environment of the uterus inside. Okay, so even if the ovulation is happening, the implantation won't happen, and that is how these things are acting as a contraceptive devices. These are acting. Okay. Then we have the pills also. There are a lot many number of pills which have been taken, which need to be taken by the female in the particular period of time it needs to be taken. Okay. And these pills are actually again a combination of maybe a progesterone and estrogen. And these pills are again helpful in not allowing the ovulation to happen, or if the ovulation is happening, the implantation doesn't happen. Okay. So that is how the things are being managed. Now, one again, an important thing is that if these things are not working, uh, obviously, because we talk about the pills, we talk about the IUDs, somewhere or the other, we are altering the natural environment inside the body. Okay, so when the natural environment inside the body is altered, there needs to be there obviously will be some kind of a side effects will be there. So there are certain side effects which the NCRT has pointed out. Sometimes question comes like this also, like the pills are important, but do they have some kind of side effect? You won't say that they don't have. Obviously, a pill like Saheli is there, which is a non-steroidal pill that is, and is considered to be very safe. But still, most of the pills do have some kind of a side effect they are having. Okay, and these side effects can be anything from the nausea to the abdominal pain, right? And even they talked about the cancer also in this particular case. So these are the some kind of, depending upon the individual's body, actually every pill is going to be functioning in a different way. Every individual is going to be functioning in a different way. Then we also talked about some very important concept of the medical termination of the pregnancy. Also, we talked about these are known as MTPs. These are known as, and I told you the condition. Now in India, the MTP was legalized in the year 1971. Okay, but under very specific strict conditions. Okay, there has to be some very strict laws needs to be implemented. Okay, that is how only the MTPs are. Now, they have given two important, you can say, the conditions under which this is possible. Number one is that the continuation of the pregnancy would involve a risk to the life of a pregnant woman. It's something like that is there, okay? Like if the baby is implanted in such a way that it is hindering mother's life, okay? Or there is some kind of abnormality in the child, or there is a huge amount of, you can say, injury to the mother, or some kind of a mental abnormality is there. So in all these cases, obviously these are the very some gruesome cases, and under these cases the MTPs are allowed. Also, there is some kind of a thing, if suppose it has been diagnosed that the unborn child inside the fetus is actually facing some kind of very severe physical abnormality. That particular child is severely handicapped. Okay, the growth of the child is not proper. The mother might give birth to the child. The child might be living also, but he will be severely handicapped. If such kind of things are diagnosed, okay, under that condition also the MTPs are recommended. Okay, but again, an important thing is that these MTPs need to be done at a very specific time period. Okay, now for MTPs to be done in a safer way, obviously they say that around 12 weeks of time in the first pregnancy, means you can say the first trimester around. Okay, during that time it is safe to undergo the pregnancy, undergo the MTP. Okay. Also, if the time goes on, then there is a strong connection between the mother and the fetus. Okay, and then MTPs again become very difficult, obviously, and if it is performed by some unauthorized person, or the person who is not a qualified nurse or a doctor, okay, then again it's a case of it could lead to a lot many complications and a risk to the both to the mother, obviously the life of the mother. Okay, and obviously, there was one more case like in India, for example, MTPs are mostly performed if during the amniocentesis process they find that the womb inside the child inside the mother is actually a female, and in that case also they are going for the MTPs. Okay, now that kind of an MTP obviously is not allowed in our country. So some these are illegal abortions which we are talking about, and these illegal abortions are not healthy it's quite an unhealthy trend in the society. So that needs to be also controlled. So most of the gynecologists, they have written this thing on their outside in their hospital that the sex of the unborn child will not be revealed. Okay, so in India, it's a crime to reveal a sex of an unborn child. Okay, fine. Then in yesterday, also we discussed about the STIs also, right? What are these STIs? Or obviously, you need to know certain name. They are not given too much in detail in your test book, okay? But you should be knowing some of the names. You should be knowing. Like we talk about the diseases, like obviously I've heard about AIDS that is caused with the HIV virus, like the HIV infections we talk about genital herpes, we talk about the hepatitis B. Now, these are the diseases which are actually sexually transmitted. And most of the diseases, if I exclude these three diseases which I have underlined, okay, the hepatitis B, the genital herpes, and the HIV infections, okay. If these three diseases are excluded, then actually the individual can can be cured to some extent. But obviously, any kind of STIs, if it is diagnosed and with the early symptoms, that can be catered on nicely. Otherwise, the STIs can have a long-lasting impact on the individual also. Okay. Now, why I'm saying that the long-lasting impact on the individual, like for example, they can lead to some kind of an abortions later on in the life. They can lead to the stillbirths, ectopic pregnancy. You know what is that? Ectopic pregnancy. What happens in the ectopic pregnancy? Actually, the zygote is formed. The fertilization has happened in the fallopian tube region. Okay. After the fertilization happens in the fallopian tube region, the zygote needs to travel down as soon as the division starts happening during the cleavage and the morula stage. It needs to go down and reach up to the uterus place, where actually it's the right place to get implanted over there, right? But what happens in case of an ectopic pregnancy? The zygote doesn't move down, right? It just stays over there, keeps on dividing, but it doesn't leave the fallopian tube region, doesn't reach the uterus. Okay. Now, such type of ectopic pregnancies need to be aborted as soon as possible. If it has been not been diagnosed in early stages, then obviously some kind of surgeries need to be performed so that these pregnancies can be aborted. Okay. So again, STIs can have the effect, such kind of a grave effect also. So we talk about the stillbirths also. We talk about that the environment inside the uterus is not enough to allow the baby to live properly. So the stillbirths are happening. Then we have even the cancer of the reproductive tract they are talking about. Okay. So obviously, what are they saying is that the STIs can be to some extent cured also. Number one thing is that people should avoid getting any kind of sexually transmitted infections. Okay. How that can be avoided again? Though they have given you 3 points in that: avoid sex with unknown partner, always try to use condoms, and then the third will be that people should always go for a qualified doctor every time whenever a person is diagnosed with any such kind of thing or such kind of symptoms are present. Then person should be going to the qualified doctor. Okay. Even if this has not been diagnosed, then obviously in the later stages of the life it can lead to some very see what I'm why I'm repeating all these things again and again. The thing is that questions are asked related to it. Okay. And you should be very thorough with the answer. Any kind of a generalized statements which you are giving will not fetch you the marks. Remember this point also. You are saying you're something talking about ill health, but you're not mentioning the terms like ectopic pregnancy, stillbirths, or the inflammatory diseases, PIDs. They are talking about the pelvic inflammatory diseases. They are not talking about all these things. Then obviously you'll not get the complete marks. Okay. And also it is very important that the people from the age of 15 to 24, they are more subjected to such kind of, you can say, vulnerable to such kind of infections. Okay. They need to again take care, and there is no reason to panic even if it is happening, because obviously the prevention is possible, but it is always before the even things are happening, we should be more careful about it. Okay, fine. This is then we have the last topic in this chapter. Again, a very important chapter topic is a, and this is a chapter being dealt in the chapter reproductive health, because infertility is also something which is prevalent too much in our society these days. Okay. And obviously person need to a couple it becomes very difficult for a couple to come out of it. Okay. There could be n number of reasons for the child, for a couple to be infertile. Okay. But in today's medical world, there are so many ways in which a couple can have their own biological child. Okay. And through different methods, when we talk about, we are coming to that actually. Okay. So the see, what is the meaning of the term infertility? What does it mean in terms of a biology? What does it mean? Okay. Who is considered to be an infertile couple? Who's considered to be an infertile? So they've given one line to you, should be referring it when you are answering. They are unable to produce children in spite of the unprotected sexual cohabitation. right? So when somebody asks you, you know what's infertility, but you won't be able to give such a proper definition for it. Okay, so who's an infertile person? A person who is a couple who are staying together and they are sexually cohabitation, and unprotected sexual cohabitation is there, but they're still not able to produce children. Okay, so if that keeps on happening, then obviously we consider that couple to be an infertile couple. Okay, there can be lot many reasons for the such kind of infertility. Obviously, number one reason is a physical reason, maybe the fallopian tube, maybe the uterus, maybe the quality of the sperm, maybe the quality of the gamete. Could be a number of reasons. Then you have this any kind of a congenital disease if a couple, when you have one of the couple is having, then drugs, right? Heavy medicines being taken and drugs being taken. Then we have even in India some kind of a psychological or immunological disturbance also, right? That can lead to the infertility. It is being said that if a person is in lot of depression, all those things, even that person can become infertile. So, um, so it is important that obviously in our country, most of the time it is a female who is being targeted, and maybe the problem is with a male individual, but it is a female who will be targeted. So proper diagnosis needs to be done, right? And proper diagnosis, if it is done, and if something is found out during that diagnosis, there are lot many number of ARTs are there. Lot many number of ARTs are there, right? And these ARTs are known as the assisted reproductive technologies. They are known as what they are known as assisted reproductive technologies. They are known as, and these assisted reproductive technologies are helping lot many number of infertile couple. Infertility could be any reason, but obviously there's very important thing. Any kind of assisted reproductive technology will work very nicely if the diagnosis is done properly, right? So you have to relate these two things. If the diagnosis is done very properly, they will understand exactly what the issue is that. So obviously, if a couple goes for this ART technique, they will be fully analyzed, okay, and then something if what is exact issue is there, that will be diagnosed, and accordingly then the ART technique, because there are a lot many number of ART techniques which we'll talk about in further. Okay, fine. So let me just okay. So the ART techniques we are talking about right now, okay. Number one thing, you have to understand that who that couple is, and couple who is infertile. How do we define that person as infertile? Okay. What can be the general reasons for a couple being infertile? Okay. Accordingly, the diagnosis is done. Okay. And accordingly, then some kind of an ART is suggested, right? Now, what are these ARTs? These are assisted reproductive technologies. These are individual is assisted, means whatever flaws there in the reproductive system, accordingly, that kind of a program will be designed for them. Okay. Now, if you have heard it, then very famous is the IVF technique we talk about, right? We talk about IVF technique. The full form of the IVF means in vitro fertilization we are talking about, right? Now, what is this in vitro fertilization? What is the meaning of the term in vitro? In vitro means something that's happening outside the natural environment. Means the fertilization is happening, but not inside the woman's body. It is happening maybe outside in a lab. It is happening inside the lab, and maybe and the growth of the embryo happens, okay, then the embryo is getting transferred. So what is this IVF? IVF is fertilization happening outside the body. So outside the body, certain similar conditions under which the fertilization can happen, the proper temperature, the nutrient, everything is supplied to the gametes, okay, and the fertilization happens outside, okay. Once the fertilization is done, obviously the cleavage and the morula stage, everything will be reached and the embryo formation will happen. So IVF will be followed by what is called the ET, right? And this is the embryo transfer we are talking about. Okay, so I think you're understanding what I'm speaking. Uh, this method, obviously, because you're growing the early embryo in a test tube, you are growing it. Okay, the few stages, few cell stages, the embryo is not inside the mother's womb. In the test tube, that's why this type of program is also known as a test tube baby program. Also, it is known as, okay. And the ovum from the wife or a donor female, she could be, or a husband, or a donor male, he could be, okay. It is collected and then it is induced to form a zygote. And this zygote then, as soon as it reaches somewhere around the 8 blastomere stage, see, it depends upon it depends upon where the embryo transfer needs to be done, right? So if the embryo transfer, see what is happening is that once the IVF is done, the second step is the embryo transfer. Okay. This embryo transfer can be done either in the fallopian tube region or in the uterus region, depending upon the number of cells the blastomeres are having. Okay. So if it is an early embryo having just maybe 8 cells, around 8 cells it is having, so it is transferred to the fallopian tube region. Okay. And this process is known as, embryo process is known as ZIFT. Right? So zygote infrafallopian tube transfer, right? So it is a part of an embryo transfer. When it is done, once the in vitro fertilization or the test tube baby formation has occurred, after that you have this embryo transfer happening, and that it is, if it is like the early stages, only 8 blastomeres are there, then we say that the ZIFT is a process that's happening. If it is more than that, okay, if it is more than that, if it is more than the 8 blastomere region, then you cannot put it in a fallopian tube region. Then you need to put it in a uterus part, okay? So the another word we use over here is IUT. The embryo transfer can be of two types, either the ZIFT or the IUT. The IUTs are the intrauterine transfers we talk about, okay? And once this is transferred either to the fallopian tube region or to the uterus part, then later on, the complete development happens inside the mother's womb, right? So obviously, such type of the, if they're talking about one more thing over here, even the fertilization that is happening could be either in vivo or in vitro also, right? So if there is a donor female is there, whose body is ready for the fertilization process, there also the fertilization can happen. Then embryo can be taken out and transferred to the original mother also, right? So IVF is followed by the embryo transfer, and that embryo transfer could be either a ZIFT or IUT. In case of a ZIFT, we talk about as a zygote intrafallopian transfer. Remember, the blastomeres is just of 8 cell stage. Okay, it will go into the fallopian tube region. But suppose the blastomere has again divided as it is more than the 8 blastomere state, then it will go to the IUT region. Right? Now, what is that IUT? It is a place in the uterus where actually the implantation will happen. Fine. This is how IVF is done. There are again few more other things also. This was the case where actually the male and the female, they both are able to produce a proper gametes they are able to produce. Okay. Suppose the case is there where the mother is not able to produce one. Then what is going to happen, right? So that is the case where we talk about is known as gift. It is known as, right? Now it is known as the gift. It is known as, that is GIFT. We talk about, that is called the gift we talk about, right? So what is that gift actually? In the first case I talked about, that a mother is able to produce the ovum. So that goes with the way either the ZIFT is happening or IUT. Now, in case if the mother is not able to produce an ovum, right? In that case, the one female will be chosen who is able to donate her ova, okay? And then it is going to be transferred to the fallopian tube. And that is the condition where we use the word gift, that is called the gamete intra-fallopian transfer, right? So, and once again, obviously, during the suitable environment, the fertilization happens and the further development happen. This is the case when the female is not able to produce a ova. Okay. There is one more thing happening where the sperms are not able to, infertility is there, and the male partner is not able to inseminate. Under that condition, you have a situation that is known as ICSI. Right? So you have intracytoplasmic sperm injections are there, ICSI are there. These intracytoplasmic sperm injections are meant for the individuals where the male is not able to inseminate the female, right? So in that particular case, the sperm injections are given to that female, and that is how once the sperm reaches the uterus region or the fallopian tube region, it is going to undergo the fertilization process of the ovum. Obviously, it is being taken care that the time at which the ICSI is done needs to match with the time during which the ovulation inside the female is happening. Okay. That situation is known as ICSI, that is known as, it is called the intracytoplasmic sperm injections, that is known as, okay. This also comes under the category of an artificial insemination technique, that the AI technique we are talking about. And obviously, it can be corrected by the artificial AI techniques also. So in all these cases, you have a healthy donor is there, right? See, if either the sperm, the quality of the sperm of the male partner is not good enough so that it can inseminate, then you have one more way in which things can happen. That is called the IUL. It is known as directly in the uterine region. The insemination is happening. In that particular case, the intrauterine insemination is happening of the female from a donor or a healthy person. Okay. So remember the terminologies. These are very, very important terminologies are there. When we talk about IVF, we talk about the GIFT, we talk about ICSI, we talk about IUI. It is actually, let me change it. Okay, so obviously things are not very much in detail in your course, but you should be knowing two things. You should be knowing obviously the full form, the complete name of all the techniques that are happening, and at the same time you should also be knowing about the conditions under which such type of methods are being used. Okay, like for example, what is the condition under which your gift is going to be used? The condition under which the female is not able to produce a ovite cell, so she'll get a female donor, right, who's going to donate her ova. All these cases, you need to know what condition under which the intracytoplasmic sperm injections are being done. What are the cases under which intrauterine insemination is being done? Okay, so remember the complete terms and the names over here, and not very much in detail, but obviously these are all the categories of the ART, right? They all come under what is known as the ART. And to start with, we talk about the in vitro fertilization, and then we come to the in vivo fertilization, maybe where in that case the fertilization is happening inside the woman, but rest of the things it is getting donated, or the donor injections, sperm injections are there, or the donor meats are there, something like that is happening. It's again a kind of an assisted reproductive technology. It is right. Okay. Um, Fine. So let me just revise with the whole topic, and we are done with this chapter now. And I think you are now clear. Okay, the chapter doesn't hold a very high weightage, this chapter, but obviously there are certain very important things are there, especially when these questions are in the form of case studies, when these questions are asked. Okay, so then at that time you need to be very careful. So let me just go to some few of the NCERT questions I want to discuss in this chapter. For example, yeah, just a minute. Okay. So we have, let us just come to true and false. Okay. So always go through the questions from the NCERT also. They're not being copied and they cannot been asked in the examination like that. But somewhere or the other relate, and you also tend to understand at how much the concept is there in your mind. Okay, so that's very important. Number one question they are saying is, can the abortions happen spontaneously, means automatically on its own? Yes, it can happen, not necessary. See, if the fetus is not implanted properly, okay, then the mother's body generally rejects, or the fetus is not growing also, then also in that case also actually this abortions can happen spontaneously. Okay, the second question is that infertility is defined as the inability to produce a viable offspring. Yes, and is always due to the abnormality defect in the female partner. No. Okay, so it is a false statement. Okay, so they are mentioned somewhere in the textbook that generally we feel that it is due to the female disability, but it is not like that. Even the quality of the sperm decide the fertility of the couple. Okay, fine. So that's a false statement. Then we come to the C part. The complete inactivation, lactation could help in the natural method of the contraception. Yes, it is also there. If a mother is non-stop breastfeeding, means the baby is completely dependent for the food on the mother's milk only. So that doesn't allow the estrogen level to go very high. FSH is not released, and therefore the ovulation doesn't happen, and that is how the fertilization is not happening. So somewhere or the other, it acts as a part of a natural, you can say it is a natural way of a contraception, right? The D1 is there. What we have, creating awareness of the sex related aspects is an effective method to improve the reproductive health of the people. Obviously, yes, there are a lot many NGOs are there, lot many Not many society individuals are there who can help and guide the young couples, especially, or the young individuals from the age of 15 to 24, to make them understand actually what are the problems with the reproductive health and how it can be cured, or above all, how this can be prevented. Okay, fine. So I think the chapter is done. And tomorrow I'm starting with a new chapter. Again, it's a very interesting chapter having good weightage. And so let me wind up my lecture for today. We'll meet tomorrow again. Okay. Thank you.